You cannot outsource the upbringing of a child to an algorithm or a policy document.
Vile mimi naelewa addiction ni kitu kama slavery. Unaona, ni kitu kwa brain haiwezi toka.
Excitement. You know, there are prices, very good prices. I wish I would be debating like you. I'd be like, oh my god. But I need psych, guys. So today we're here representing UMV, that's the Unda Youth Network, and we're all about mental health prevention in our youth. By youth, we mean you, me, and everybody who we hang out with. So UMV basically, it was started to mainly target the youth and the problems we face, the things we don't talk about, the things the things that silently challenge us, and we can't really talk about them, or we feel like if we talk about them, people won't understand us. Yeah? So I hope you're ready for today.
Thank you. So aside from that, you can find us on all socials, either as Unda Youth Network and in other areas, Unda Mind Vibes. Now, the reason there seems to be that bit of separation. Now, many of you here know football, Cindy. Like, let's say, for example, Arsenal. So Arsenal has a men's team and a women's team, Cindy. When you go on their socials, you will find there is Arsenal men's, like on everything about the men's, and then women's, everything about the women's, India. So Unda Mind Vibes and Unda Youth Network work in such correlation because they address different issues and they address different agendas. Unda Mind Vibes now holds things like this, where it matters awareness of mental health prevention. It gets to educate people through various means. Like right now, we have this debate. But for the youths, coming May, we have an art program, a 10-week program meant now for the youth to also participate in and get to also express themselves through art in various topics that are tied to mental health. Whereas Unda Youth Network is the one responsible for finding relations and partners and basically getting us out there, but there is more to it. So if you don't find us as Unda Youth Network on a particular platform, simply search for Unda Mind Vibes. Sawa sawa? Great. So we'd like to briefly mention the preliminaries. Thanks once again to all of you who've made it here. You all know what's at stake. You all know.
Let's clap for ourselves for that. For everybody who participated in the preliminaries, both teams, Nairobi South Chapel and Toronto FC. Let's clap for ourselves. Congratulations, you've made it this far, and it was good stuff that you did. Yeah.
Okay, and without further ado, we invite now one of the judges, Mr. Peter Mwago, and he will get to walk you through on the debriefing. And oh, sorry, I'm being corrected. It will be Miss Annette, who will walk you through a debriefing, and now we can begin the matches of the day.
So let's clap for Annette as she comes on stage.
Good afternoon. Where are our speakers for the day? You're ready? Okay. So just, I won't take much of your time. I just want to remind you the basics. First speaker, please remember to define your terms. Sawa sawa. Second speaker, give us the content of what your motion is about. Third speaker, you're going to rebut. Please remember, you're looking for keywords when you're defining the terms. Avoid overreading, just communicate with the crowd. Sawa sawa. Then convince us why your team should take this home. Sawa sawa. May the best team win and all the very best.
Okay, awesome. So without further ado, we can now proceed with the first match of the day. So the first set of teams will be debating on the motion: governments and technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people's mental well-being online. So the teams ready for this from NC South, you may please take the center stage, as well as from Toronto FC. Um, oh yes, this would be the underdogs in NC South, and Toronto FC. I do not have the name here of which team is coming for this, but as you had prepared, yes. Okay, and with that, we may now begin with the first debate of the day.
All protocols observed. I go by the name Chris from Hood Boys from Toronto FC. And today I'll be a protagonist on today's motion, which is government and tech companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people mental well-being online. So I'm gonna define the term government. Government is a system that controls and take care of a certain community or a society. This is a system that takes care of a certain community or a society. The term tech companies, these are entities that work on remarking, researching and developing system software and online internets, something like that. Mental well-being. So mental well-being is the stage on how you take moral and how you understand yourself and moral responsibilities. These are set of goals or set of responsibilities that you put on yourself. So I will go on by explaining the term cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, this is the act of harassing someone or humiliating someone through internet by social media platform. Acts of insulting someone or harassing someone through social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, and many other more. So there are effects of cyberbullying and causes of cyberbullying. So I will go on by the effects, or I'll go on by the example. Example of cyberbullying are body shaming. Body shaming, you find someone sharing nudes without someone concerned or uh, or commenting badly to someone post or someone that I've shared. So our causes of cyberbullying, it causes fear, anxiety, depression, and can lead to death by someone committing a suicide. So me, I stand here proposing that government and tech company have a moral responsibility, because government and tech company can do advocacy on the perpetrators who perpetrate victims who are bullying somebody or bullying people online. So they have a moral responsibility. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Nathaniel Gitu from the opposing side team, the Underdogs. And this afternoon, we oppose the motion. Yeah. We oppose the motion. Government and technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people, so young people's mental well-being online. First, I'd like to define the terms. Who are youth? Youth are as we described, in the transitional phase between an adult and a child. Specifically from the UN, they define youth as being 15 to 24 years of age. Now, who are the governments? The government refers to a public institution and state authorities that are responsible for creating laws, such as the courts and such. What is a moral responsibility? A moral responsibility is an ethical duty, what a person is ought to do, even beyond what the law requires them to do. What is safeguarding? Safeguarding means to protect harm, or to protect from harm or reduce risk and put reasonable measures in place to support safety. Now, this leads me to my first point. And my first point goes by saying primary responsibilities lie with parents, guardians, and individuals themselves. Parents guide habits, boundaries, and values. Schools teach resilience and digital literacy. Young people also exercise agency and choice. The primary responsibility for a young person's mental well-being lies with parents or guardians, or primarily themselves, because of, per se, direct, continuous influence over the child's environment. Of course, you've lived with your parents for longer. They have influence over the things you do or the things you can't do. There's rules that have been established in the house. There's morals they bring you up with. Okay? Emotional proximity and understanding of the child's needs. Parents always, even after school, whatever, they always come and ask you, hi, how was school? What happened? They tend to connect with you on an emotional level to see or get people with you and know what's happening so they may advise you or get to help you. Authority to set boundaries and values and behaviors. Same thing I said about rules being set in place and morals you've been brought up with, basically. Developmental psychology supports this. It is said early emotional development is shaped primarily by caregivers and home environment. Parenting style affects self-esteem, emotional regulation, risk-taking behavior, and ability to cope with stress. My main point being, well-being is formed long before and beyond online spaces. You cannot outsource the upbringing of a child to an algorithm or a policy document. The people who shape a young person's mental well-being are not distant governments or profit-driven corporations, but the parents who raise them, the teachers who guide them, and the individual choices they learn to make along the way. This is my closing statement. This motion doesn't just assign responsibility, it misplaces it. And when we misplace responsibility, we weaken the very people who are best positioned to protect young people in the first place. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, esteemed judges, and our fellow debaters. Good afternoon. My name is Titus from Toronto. I'll be together with the Hood Boys. My time starts in 3, 2, 1. I stand before you today to support this motion on government and technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people mental well-being. Firstly, I will go on supporting my first speaker on what he said on cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is the harassment through online video. Now, what I want to add in his point, the exposure of nudes and abusive comments. Now you can find that someone has has captured a video to expose it into the media. Now you find you have just made a dance, you are dancing. Now when you go to the comment section, you find that there are some people have didn't like your videos. They commented abusive comments, which is not good. So this can lead to trauma, which can affect your mental health, well-being. On to my second point. Now my point is that I strongly believe that the government the government and the technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people's mental well-being online. My point goes to regulate online videos. The government has the responsibility to regulate the videos. For example, the videos which are showing for example, the pornography. The government has to to regulate those videos so that they cannot be reached. For example, I can go to these technology companies, this TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. When I search this pornography, these sites, websites, the pornography sites, I can find them. No, that to me that the government really has to put measures and regulate those videos. And to my next point is the government has the responsibility to safeguard the young people mental well-being online, because the government has to educate the people, the advocacy. The government has the responsibility of teaching the people how to cope with this technology company. Now this goes on to the schools. The government has to put this digital literacy to the school curriculums in order for the learners to learn to be taught on how to use them when they are still growing. Because you can find now, for example, you have a child. Your child he has been given homework at school, but when he comes home, he wants to watch TikTok. He saw the video or football. If he likes football, he wants to watch the Ronaldo skills, Ronaldinho. You see, now this abstracts the learner from doing his homework, which he has been given to school. On to the next one is that even to the society, the government has to teach or make the campaigns of how people and the society will get how to know how to use these technology companies when they are online. The next one is the misinformation. Misinformation is the giving of data, is the giving of false data knowingly or unknowingly through these online technology companies. Now you find that I was shooting a video. While I was shooting, I was advising people on how to be fit, to do regular exercises, and to do regular exercises. But now we find that someone has entered my account and gone on to change what I had said. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Honorable judges, our worthy opponents, my wonderful teammates, and all the audience, good afternoon. Today, we are opposing the point that governments and technology companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people's mental well-being online. Truly, this is true. They are not what we have to rely on. Let me give you my first point today is that legislation and company policy does not guarantee morality. This does nothing at all to guarantee the morality, even though that even though these policies might look on the surface as if they are safeguarding the youth, they truly do not have. They might have behind the scenes. They might have behind the scenes a very evil and very sadistic ways of collecting this data. Let me give you an example. Recently, multiple social media companies such as TikTok, Roblox, Discord, and even as recently as last week, Claude and PlayStation, we have had them roll out. We have had them roll out youth verification policies where you have to verify your face and ID to ensure that you are above age to use their products effectively. This, although sounds good on the surface, truly does not do justice to whatever we need to do with mental health. For example, let me give you an example of Discord recently. Discord rolled out age verification late December, early January in multiple countries, even ours. But the companies they partner with are not too trustworthy. For example, the company themselves, Discord, promised the users that the data that they will collect will never leave the device. However, in the UK, we have recently had a scandal against them using a company called Persona, a US-based company backed by a billionaire named Peter Thiel. This company had been collecting data from multiple sites, not just Discord, but even ChatGPT and other sites which require verification. And this data is not kept securely. It is there was a leak of this Persona site, and we had seen that. Let me get the statistics. They have gotten through the 2,456 source files that we have gotten from them, and we have found out that this company has been doing 269 verification checks on different parameters, including race and financial stability, to determine who would be a threat to the US government. These companies are not what we should rely on to provide safety and mental health well-being to our youth. Next, I would like to go to the fact that moral responsibility does not require government coercion. The moral responsibility and legal mandate are two different categories. Companies can adopt responsible practices through consumer pressure, investor activism, and ethical leadership without government compulsion. This movement throughout the world to boycott these companies who are clearly doing wrong has led to more help being done from the people themselves instead of these so-called authorities that we have been using. What we can say is that, for example, in 2021, TikTok voluntarily introduced a default 60-minute screen time limit for users under 18, a restricted mode for users under 13, and a family pairing feature. These changes preceded any enforceable legislation, and they were driven by public accountability and not law. Next, Government regulation of online content carries serious risks to freedom. On their point of cyberbullying and the distribution of unlawful content, government regulation is just, unfortunately, very, very inefficient and at some point not possible. The internet is a very huge place. More than a petabyte of data is stored throughout the internet. And this shows once we go to countries that have tried this government regulation. We can look at China. China's government regulation of internet content, and North Korea as well. Let me finish. Governments such as China and North Korea's internet blocking policies have restricted the freedom of their peoples. For example, in China, you cannot mention anything about the Tiananmen Square. And North Korea, there is no attachment to the public internet. In other countries that have tried this and given some sort of freedom, such as Australia, it has not worked. Children have been bypassing these government blocks throughout, using paint on their faces to to show that they are above age through the face verification software, and it has effectively not worked in any single way. Thank you.
My time starts at 3, 2, 1, go. My fellow debaters, all protocol observed, good afternoon. Yeah, for addition, for my second debater and the first one, the second said about misinformation, like the story of the Russian guy. Hakuna mtu mwenye anajua alala na wanawake wote, si ndio? Hakuna mtu mwenye anajua, ni picha tu peke kendo zilionekana, lakini hakuna mtu mwingine mwenye anajua. Sa comment section, kila mtu aka comment vitu zake hapo, walilala, lakini hakuna kitu kaa hiyo. So unaona hiyo ni misinformation. Hakuna nini video ilitokeleze hapo, si ndio? Usijua alikuwa anafanya nini. Alafu kuongezea ingine about cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, mambo ya comment section, umepost picha utusiwe. Sasa wewe unaona ni like hakuna mtu mwingine mwenye anakutaka. Jo like umeingia comments ni unapata over 1k comments na zote ni matusi zimejaa. Sasa hiyo ina lead death. Naona unazenda ujinyonge useme hakuna mtu mwenye ananipenda. Like the story of kuna boy mwenye alivaa kama dem akaenda road trip. So mmesikia story ama? Mmesikia story? Alivaa kama dem akaenda road trip akafanya all the stuff na maboys, ndio? Sasa ukiangalia vijana wa yuko sai, comments watu wanaandika rudi jinyonge na tishu baridi, rudi jinyonge, si ndio? Sasa unaona vijana walienda wakajiua. Hiyo ni cyberbullying. Alafu kuna point nyubo amesema mambo na cyberbullying, hata kuna kitu kaa hiyo. Mnataka nimuulize, akiamka asubuhi, cheki ini yako ukiamka asubuhi ujipate, unajua mambo na AI, ule wanekaga picha ujipate wamekweka uko uchi, utafanya nini? Sasa unaona jamaa ataamka apate picha yake imesambaa kila pahali eti yako uchi, si ndio? Sasa si hapo italid hadi asitoke hadi nje. Hata toka nje watu atapata ma miss call, ni mwana picha yako ukiwa uchi, kwani rada? Sasa unaona italid hadi mwenyewe ji story shasambaa Kenya mzima, siende tu nijue. Sasa naona mimi nasema government yenyewe inafai itake responsibility kwa hizo vitu kaa hizo. Alafu tena mambo na addiction. Vile mimi naelewa addiction ni kitu kama slavery. Naona ni kitu kwa brain, yezi toka. Yaani ni kitu kama inakutumia. Example, naona vijana ma youth. Hao wanaamini, hao kwao wanaamini hawezi kaa bila miadarati. Hawezi kaa bila miadarati. Sasa wanaamini sio addiction. Naona. Sasa tunalidhi kwa social media. Umezoea kukaa online sana. Saa ule ambao washa vyombo, ule ambao mustake ni ukweli. Ule ambao mwasha vyombo, si ndio? Wewe na wewe msee amesema tu mambo na Roblox. Umeenda umecheza Roblox kwanza asubuhi. Enyewe ukiwa online huwezi ona vile time inasonga. Tunaona. Umetoka kucheza saa 2. Umecheza. Umeona bado saa 2 bado. Ndio umecheza mpaka saa 7. Mamako ndio anakuja. Hakuna kitu umefanya. Utafagia vyombo zenye uliambiwa uoshe hujaosha. Saa 7 ndio imefika unafaa upike. Unaona? So vitu kaa hizo. Sinaona machaji. Vitu kaa hizo. Unaona kitu kingine. So ndio maana mimi naona nini yetu na timu yangu hapa the Wood Boys tumekuja kupropose tukisema nye government inafaa itake responsibility. Unaona kama uliingia Instagram suleka for example uliingia na 15 years, so Instagram inafaa kuleta vitu za miaka yako, kukuteach mambo na miaka yako, so isikulete vitu na above miaka yako. Naona then to limit kukaa bado online. Kukaa online kwanza asubuhi mpaka jioni hayuko healthy. Mpaka inataka kuharibu brain, mental yako. Si mzuri. Alafu hiyo addiction mambo na kuwatch porno. Unaona hiyo story inaleta tena bado pia pressure. Hiyo story alishaka nini? Unaona mori wangu aliwatch, mimi sikuwatch. Umeenda Instagram ama Telegram, any social media platform, umesearch your story. Sina kulead endelee kuwatch tu porno. Sina kulead utazoea, itakuwa mazoea yako. Hadi sometimes unaibia mamako pesa, ununue credit, ndio ukuje ununue bundles ukuje watch porno. Ndio kitu si mzuri. Naona addiction. Kidogo. So me and my team we believe government and tech company should take responsibility. Judge, nitakuuliza swali. Ukiamka tu asubuhi umepiga picha smart, si ndio? Upate comments ni mingi kushinda likes. Utafikiria aje? Obviously utajua tu enyewe ni matusi wamekuandikia hapo. Sasa hao watu wenye wana comment hivyo, government inafaa wa report. Naona si Instagram kuna vile unza report mtu, umreport account yake iblokiwe, alafu ama anaweza toa a big fine. Anaweza toa a big fine, si ndio? Anaweza toa a big fine. Ndio amenikubali. Anaweza toa a big fine. Haina haja tuendelee, tushashinda. Tumemaliza.
Before I start my time, to everybody here, I would like to pose an interesting question. The quote that says, repetition of the same process over and over again, expecting a different result, is a height of insanity. To who do you think this quote is attributed to? Some people think it's Albert Einstein, others think it's Benjamin Franklin, but none of those people in their works, deeds, or presentations ever gave such kind of quote. In fact, this quote is mostly attributed to 1983 book called Sudden Death, a book written by Rita Mae Brown that talks about the mental health issues regarding repetition of the same action knowing that it will produce the same result. Therefore, as my time begins in 3, 2, 1, I, Just Stephen Kimani from Side Opposition, I'm here to show you why we support the motion that states governments and technologies companies have a moral responsibility to safeguard young people's mental well-being online. So this debate comes down to one main question. Should governments and technological companies have an obligation to safeguard your mental health? And we believe it's no. Why is that? Just as our second speaker has said, moral responsibility does not require government coercion. Moral responsibility and legal mandate are very distinct categories. What the government can do as a legitimate program is very separate from what they can do in a moral responsible context. So I'm going to give you an example, especially when it comes to technical companies. So our second speaker talked about some companies such as Discord, TikTok, and other companies have recently come up with age restriction, as in like you can only be a certain age to access their content, whether 18, 16, depending on the country. But the fact still states that 1 in 3 teenagers, especially teenage girls, still suffer from mental stress. Why is that? 80% of teens have been recorded to enter false information to get into these social media sites, which means that the problem is not that they get affect from social media because of their mental health. The problem is their ignorance. So you wonder why aren't tech companies going a step further to make sure they actually input correct information? Maybe a birth certificate, maybe an ID, maybe some form of passport or driver's card. This is simple. Social media platforms were made for us to consume. We are the product. They consume our time. Social media is made in a way that the flashy lights, the high dopamine, the rapid succession of information is made like a casino, which means these social media sites are always targeting to gain profit from us, even if we suffer. Because if they decided to put serious restrictions for our mental health, then most teenagers will not be using social media. Look at Australia. Only those above 16 can use social media. They went the extra step to make sure that they actually impose something that is mandatory. But you see that this company, it doesn't work that way, because even on the sites they spoke about, on pornography sites, in a recent case, it shows that before you access a pornography site, they ask you, are you 18 or older? Yes or no. If you click yes and you're not 18, the problem lies in your action, your ignorance. It's your fault that you have that mental issue, right? So let's break this down. Side proposition states that governments and technological companies should have the mandate to stop you from doing your ignorant actions, that they are more effective, that they boast greater impact and severity in the long-term process. So let's look at these facts biblically. Biblically, the Sanhedrins, the high authorities, the kings, the leaders, they did not handle teenage issues. It was the parents. The parent had the mandate to teach, to guide, and to protect whatever the teenager consumed in a biblical context. So what we propose as side opposition is that the government aid parents in understanding digital literacy and mental well-being. In what sense? They provide education to parents, right? They provide digital literacy to teenagers. They provide education to the people who interact with these children before they grow up. Youth people have an agency like Logov in our country and digital wellness advocacy being led by teens who have diagnosed their problem and have organized solutions. So in order to increase the effectiveness, these government and technological companies should fund these agencies, should focus on vocational training so that they don't pull out the mandate of primary protection from parents, but enhance the parents, because it is their mandate by the Lord to take care of their children before they release them into the adult world. So in 3 ways, I'm going to show you how we as an opposition have won this debate. Impact. We show that rather than government policy mandates that may look like a limitation of freedom and encroachment of privacy, as my second speaker said, we advocate that parents do not only ensure the youth protection digitally, but also mentally and spiritually. Therefore, these youth are protected not only in a digital space, but in a spiritual space, mental state, and physical state. The severity. While governments and tech companies' moral responsibility may come off as authoritative commands, we want these teenagers to accept their ignorance and to agree that they should stay off of these social media sites if they are not of age, if they are not of the right context, if they're not of the right mindful state. So in this situation where we empower the parents and the teachers to have the mandate to protect the young people, these children have a choice to either accept or decline, which for the nation encourages freedom of thought in the youth. Therefore, the youth are more inclined to suffer the consequences of their actions rather than taking that freedom from them. And with that, I raise my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. While the opposing team's points, although emphatic, hilarious, and charismatic, are totally unprepared and frantic when it comes to the facts and logic. If you look at what they have said, they've said that they have concentrated on cyberbullying most of this, and what they have done is that it is not backed by any facts, no statistics. No, they have only banked on the emotional value of how this cyberbullying affects people. And they did speak on advocacy of the government and the technological companies, but advocacy is only an excuse to avoid blame and tax cuts in some areas if the companies do not take responsibility for their actions. Next, they said that governments need to regulate and censor the internet. This, unfortunately, is not possible because the internet's a really wide place. And if you look at it, you cannot, as one government, block everything. Next, they have talked about the government needs to safeguard us. How? How are we safeguarding our own people? Give us that. Next, they talked about misinformation. Misinformation does not directly affect mental health. And if we go with what they did say, they said that we need to help the government stop this spread. Rumors spread in real life. We can't lie. Rumors do spread in real life, and we can't do anything about it. They've spread in social spaces in the physical plane. And how are we supposed to stop it in our connected global village? And thus, as I end my rebuttal speech, fair and just judges, while our points are grounded, we are still astounded how the opposing team's points are masquerading as true. And with that, I bid you adieu. Thank you.
Once again, I'm here. So kwa hiyo point yako, ulikuwa unasema how can we safeguard our people? So government tulisema putting strict laws. Alafu kiangalia, hakuongea about cyberbullying. Ukiwa kina aliongelea vitu zingine. Hakuongelea cyberbullying. Alafu one thing you said about playstations that zina require face identity, right? So ulisema. So I can use the judge face as my brother to enter that online platform. So, yeah. Chillax. So, once again, kwa hiyo kuna point tulisema. Nikiongelea government, simanishi only government. Kwa government, it's built up by many people, society members, you feel me? So, hapo kwa, it is possible we can report and a government to take action. Kwa every tech companies before watoe like a social media platform, they will necessary what a government lazima approve, right? Yeah. So kwa hiyo action there's some sites like inatakanga like Gmail inaongelea about hiyo age yako. So ukiweka age yako like weke uko above 18, wewe ndo utapata the wrong information. Your mental well-being states how you know yourself. Sir, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now that we've come to the end, debaters, you may leave. Please shake hands. Thank you. We'll have a short break and we'll resume right after.
You know, churches and communities majorly work on awareness, and according to mental health, that is just dealing with the top layer of the issue.
So when you say that the government does not have enough facilities, it is us to prioritize these kinds of things, to let them know we're supposed to create awareness. Come on!